This is our monthly AMA with the delivery group. Today is October 11th, 2023. And this is really a time for anyone to ask any questions they have about how we deploy and release GitLab versions. So please do go ahead if you want to add a question to the agenda, and we'll get started with the ones that we have. So I added the first one because I saw yesterday we shared about some upcoming changes to the security release process. So Steve, could you give us a bit of a short summary of what this means for the people who are preparing fixes for our next security release?
Yeah, definitely. So I added some notes here already. In that Slack announcement, there's a link to this announcement issue that I've also linked here. So definitely take a look at that for like the full details and sort of background and context. But the main summary of changes from the development side of things is that in our older process, engineers used to manually link their issues to the security release tracking issue. And I can actually really quickly share my screen here. And so what that would look like is when they would create a new issue on the security project, they would use this template for the security developer workflow. And one of the first steps here was link this issue to the security tracking issue, release tracking issue. And so we've removed that step and instead have added a step further down. So after all of the development and backports have been created, when the issue is ready for release, we ask that the engineer apply the security target label. And so what that is going to do is it's going to automatically start looking and evaluating that issue. And if it's ready, it will automatically link it to the security release tracking issue. If it's not ready, it will let the engineer know why it's not ready and give some actionable feedback of like, here are the things you need to do to allow this to be part of the release. That is already running that processor. So as people start to add those labels to their issues, they'll see the feedback or they'll see their issues linked. And let's see where I am on the notes that I added here. And usually the feedback that you'd get if your issue is not linked are just things like, oh, a certain backport is missing, or one of them is not approved, or something isn't assigned to the bot correctly. Things that you usually find out at some point along the way. This time it's just you get pinged directly right away. So hopefully it'll save some time for everyone. There's several benefits to this change in process from the development side. So the first, and I think biggest benefit is you can easily tell if your issue is going to be included in the security release or not. There's no more confusion of, am I going to make it? Am I not going to make it? If you're linked to that security release tracking issue, you're in. If you're not linked, then you're not in at that point. And the other benefits are you don't have to be pinging release managers or at least hopefully as much about, what else do I need to do here, or I don't understand what's going on. A lot of those automated comments should provide that information. And then the last benefit that I listed here, at least, is that it's pretty common in the development process for security issues to kind of finish development. You've created a few backports, but you can't create the last backport until the stable branch is created when the monthly release happens. So if I finished all of my work today, for example, the stable branch for this current milestone won't be created until around October 22nd. So I can't create the last backport until then. So I have to remember to go back and finish my work after that time. So with these new changes, there's another label that's automatically added to this issue template called security notifications. And all of these security implementation issues that engineers are working on, when that stable branch is created, they will automatically get pinged saying, hey, stable branch is created, go ahead and create your last backport. And when you're done, add the security target label and you'll be added to the release. So hopefully that saves a lot of time and a lot of not having to set reminders to finish the work for people. And then one last note is one aspect of the change that might not feel as comfortable as our previous process is that your issue may spend a lot of time unlinked because you can't create that last backport until the stable branch is there. So technically your issue isn't ready, so it won't be linked yet. Whereas with the old process, you link it whenever you want. So you might worry that, well, my issue isn't going to be linked until a certain time. How do I know if I'm going to be in the release or not? But you do need to remember that with the old process, being linked was never a guarantee that you would be part of the security process or security release. We've had many cases where the day before the security release, we've had to unlink issues because they were missing that final backport, or they didn't have a green pipeline, or there was something else that might have been pretty trivial that was just missing, and there was no time to make the fix. So with the increased actionable notifications, the hope is that we eliminate any sort of surprise around not making a release for people. And yeah, if anyone has any other questions or parts of that they want me to expand upon, I'm happy to.
Do you mind if I verbalize a quick question off the back of that one, Steve?
Yeah.
I'll type it in a minute. The value stream in my mind here is to our customer. So the engineers on our side don't really, we're ambiguous, we're a bit ambivalent to that. And I think, how can we reassure the customer that it's coming? And I guess, is there a mechanism that could help with that? And maybe that's a bit of a newbie question, so apologies, but I'm just thinking, because it's a same old problem with an issue gets raised and we go back to the customer, well, it might happen this quarter, but then it doesn't. And so I'm just wondering if that was any way to help better that situation for the customers.
Well, I think with security releases, I'm not entirely sure how visible any of these issues might be to customers because these are all private.
Yeah. I just wondering if there was some raise that was specific to, because I'm dealing with the major accounts and we've definitely got, dedicated and all that.
Sure. And I don't know if anyone else on the team has an answer that might help with that, but like certainly in terms of like efficiently like trying to get as much as possible into a security release, I think this will help create a little bit more visibility on what's included and what's not, so that anyone can look at that security release tracking issue and say for certainty, like these things were included or are going to be included tomorrow when the release happens.
Cool.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this process is really around giving that certainty. So I think in terms of is this fix that a customer is waiting on, that's probably more with the stage groups on how are they planning their work and prioritizing the fixes. But what we are hoping to be able to improve here is that if the stage groups believe the fix is in the release,
yes, the commitment,
it really is. At the moment, that can be quite surprising for them when, what with the challenge we have really that, Steve sort of talked through the new improved process, but like in the existing one, is the release preparation is like very short window of time. We attempt to squeeze in everything that is hopefully in the release, and it just isn't always possible. So we do end up having to cut things that are quite close to being ready. And perhaps there are customers who were expecting them to be included in the release and they're just not, because we were missing a review or a backport or something that could have been there if we'd had a different process.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying. That's brilliant. Thank you.
Oh, thanks for asking. Great. Does anyone else have any questions around security releases? No, awesome. And I just mentioned, so yeah, Steve, like thanks for the really great overview of the changes coming. I think the other thing I want to just mention is this is part one of the work that we're doing in delivery to be able to have more regular security releases, and also security releases that are less work for release managers and also for AppSec and also stage groups. So for everybody involved, it's a lot of work to prepare a security release. And what we're hoping to do here is get to a place where we have everything that is available and ready. We know about it and everybody's in agreement that that's known and ready. So when we prepare the security release, we just have those sets of fixes. That's step one towards having more frequent security releases.
Yeah, and I kind of dropped that in point 10 on the agenda just to create some space in case anyone was asking additional questions around that. But creating visibility is a big part of that. And to your point, James, that visibility is not only helpful to our dev teams, but probably some of our more customer facing kind of team members, right, who can also share with confidence this is when we expect things to happen.
Exactly. I'll add those links as well up here. Sam, sorry. Cool. Great. Okay, in which case, let's jump to number 2, which is also, we have another exciting release process change coming up with 16.6, which is in November, is the first monthly release that will be using the third Thursday instead of the 22nd. So, Myra, what can people expect as we go into release preparation leading up to November 16th?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks. So I have linked an announcement issue that also contains some details, so please have a look at it. But to summarize, as Amy mentioned, it started with 16.6. The release date is no longer going to be the 22nd. It's going to be the third Thursday. So for 16.7 and for 16.8 and for every upcoming milestone, it's always going to be the third Thursday. Now, what does that mean for stage teams? The release preparation process doesn't really change. What changes are the dates. And what I mean by that is that the Friday before the third Thursday is that release managers are going to announce what's going to be the candidate commit that is going to be used to prepare the release. And then the week of the third Thursday, we are going to do the release preparation, which basically means we are going to tag the release candidate, we are going to tag the final version, and we are going to test the packages and everything that we have been doing so far with previous releases. Now, stage teams are going to be notified about when the release candidate is going to be created and when the final version is going to be tagged. As usual, we are doing this already for past releases, and we are going to continue to do it for upcoming releases. I have also added the link for the release information. If anyone is curious about, hey, when is going to be the release date for 16.9? I mean, it is kind of difficult to calculate that in your head to be what's going to be the third Thursday. The dates are available on the releases page on the handbook. And yeah, that's about it. Another good point to mention is that the patch releases and security releases are not going to change. The patch releases are going to be still created by demand, and security releases are going to be shipped after the monthly release. And they are not going to change right now. They are going to change later with all the processes that Delivery is creating. But yeah, that's it. Does anyone have a question or anyone else wants to expand my comment?
Is it worth just covering again? I think we did it in the last AMA, but giving another shout out to the releases gem that we put together. If you're building any, automations around this date change yourself, we've created something that might help.
Yeah,
Yes.
for sure. Thanks for pointing that out. I'm gonna add a link to the gem. So we have concentrated all the logic of calculating the release dates into a gem, but not only that, to also let us know which is going to be the previous version, which are the versions that are targeted by a security release, and all of the versions logic, it is in that place. So yeah, this is the gem that we are using to calculate the release dates that are placed in the handbook, and that is also the gem that we are using in our release tooling. So we have a single source of truth for release information.
Great. Thanks for that, Myra. Does anyone have any other questions about monthly release dates, prep steps?
So we say that security releases don't really change. So security releases, they have like this kind of floating date that is usually around the end of the month, a week-ish after the monthly release. Is it going to stay at the end of the month, or is it going to stay more a week-ish after the monthly release?
So far, what we have discussed with Upset is that it is going to be after the release date. So it as well could be at the end of the month if the dates aligned, but it is mostly likely to be 1 week after the release date.
And the actual sort of pattern we're moving towards, one of the great things about the monthly release date changing to the third Thursday, is it gives us a much more stable calendar to be preparing. So in the current with the 22nd is, if, for example, the 22nd falls on a Sunday, we lose a prep day because it's the Saturday. So the good thing about having it on Thursday is we can build this quite predictable schedule. with the improvements to the security release process, we're getting close to being able to introduce additional security releases each month. So probably what we'll end up with before too long is a security release, say around the middle of the month, and one perhaps around the end of the month. So you will start to get a bit more of a predictable schedule falling into place. Okay, are there any other questions? Either about release dates, prep tasks, or any other topic? In which case, Sam, I'm going to pull your question up. If anyone has any other stuff, let's please do feel free to add those in so that we can get to those as well. But yeah, Sam, go ahead.
Yeah, so great updates in the releases world. My kind of question here was, what's next? We've talked a little about visibility, maybe potential extra releases. What have we got in the pipeline, and what's our look ahead for the rest of the quarter and next quarter?
We've got quite a lot of work we can do. So I think all of this started out earlier in the year when we improved the patch release process. We did our first iteration of adding automation to the security release process. So that meant that it was a bit more repeatable, a lot less work, but we've still got lots of work more improvements we can do there. So the first step is going to be getting to those multiple security releases. So Steve's outlined kind of the big step one, but we also have the big step two is in progress, which is there's a lot of work that goes into preparing a security release, and particularly the blog post. And AppSec have a lot of manual work there, and so do release managers. So we are in progress of automating as much of that as we possibly can so that we are in a really good place to have more frequent security releases if we need them. There's also, I should add actually, so coming off the back of that, so assuming we have more frequent security releases, and also as we have these more sort of flexible or not flexible, these moving release dates, the visibility will become a little bit more difficult. So Myra's got a great proposal up about a dashboard that we could create, which will surface more information. So actually when people are wondering when we say the current version of GitLab or the security fix can go into the past too, what exactly does that mean? What numbers are we talking about? So that will make it a much easier self-serve process for people to actually prepare fixes and have all of the right backports in place without having to sort of redo work or question things as they go. But then I think beyond that, it's really just continuing to automate things. We have a lot of process we can simplify. There's a lot of manual steps that we go through. Now that the processes are a bit more understood and a bit more fixed compared to, say, a few years ago, they can start to be automated. And ideally, we have a lot more self-serve kind of aspects to our release processes. Does anyone else want to have other things? That's my personal hopes list, but feel free if anyone has other things. So yeah, I think at the moment we don't have a like a very visible release process. Perhaps that's the thing we're working towards, as kind of the overall summary. I think there's a lot of knowledge and experience inside delivery about what needs to happen for any of our different types of releases to work effectively. And so they do work effectively, but I think it's very, very difficult if you are outside delivery, or if you're joining delivery, actually building up that experience is difficult. So hopefully with better automation and kind of simplified processes, we could also help everybody understand the steps. Yeah, and I'm going to pick on you, James, again. But if you have feedback and things you want to see and areas that you need to be more visible, both for customers and internally, please shoot us feedback. We've got links to epics and issues in this doc, and we're really interested to hear what you've got to say and what you need to see too.
Yeah, I can just to take up a few more minutes, I guess. unless people want to drop on it, but I can give some insights from the battlefield. I've
Sure.
actually got 20 plus years experience as a Unix admin from the 90s, and I've deployed large scale environments. I used to build things. In fact, it's the first job role I've had with solution architects. I'm not really building anything. I'm advising on how to build things, isn't it, here at GitLab? So it's fun. But I do resonate with my counterparts, my customers, and I work with the major accounts. And certainly quite a few of them have to have self-managed, or even I'm working with C1, the first dedicated one. They've got that regulatory requirements. And a lot of this, actually, a point I was going to bring, and I love the gem idea, because automating that delivery, right? You're extending your CI/CD pipeline, not just the point of software release, but then allowing your customers to automatically ingest it. And the thought I was having was around security, about signing that release manifest. How can I be sure that that gem is picking up something that's not been interfered with? Because, you know, if I wanted to circumvent security somehow and really screw things up, I could just alter that file and send a lot of things haywire, right? And so when I talk about receiving software from third parties in a secure manner, the steps that a customer might do, right, to extend your CI/CD right through to their environment as well. And to give you some idea on that, I built one of the first 5G core network deployments that came from one of the network providers, took their Kubernetes deployments, so they'd have their own in-house development, their release 200-300 containers in a massive bundle. It was all standardized by the Telecom Institute, and I'd have to take that bundle, do the digital signing, make sure it has in it what it says it has in it. We had to put in special mechanisms so that someone couldn't inject software, but I wanted to get that software right through into a core network where over 36 million people are using that service, right? So just wrap, and that's just on my little island here in the UK. Those numbers are a lot bigger in other continents. So you can understand the severity of that, you know, and the network I was looking after was running blue light services, something we call critical national infrastructure. So there's a lot of high pressure on not allowing stuff in there. So you can imagine the challenges, and I hope it just puts a framework around how interesting this can get in this space. So yeah, these automated mechanisms are super important, because my risk is if I find a problem in my core network, i.e. at the customer, what's the gap to getting it plugged? How long is that risk window open for? And so the better we can expedite automated delivery and have these patches come through and everything speed up. And to give you some idea, in the telco industry, you know, we took it from 2 years down to about 4 weeks. And that is a staggering improvement. It's not quite super duper DevOps improvement, but it's a step in the right direction, right? And you can imagine, yeah. So yeah, anyway, a little bit of insight, but yeah, I was looking at the sort of security mechanisms involved on your release procedures and how to verify things. But yeah, that was just that was ticking over there while you were describing the gem. It was awesome. Questions or thoughts? I don't know, open discussion.
Yeah, thanks for sharing.
Yeah, appreciate that extra. Yeah, I think it is a very broad kind of like problem space, lots of interesting things going on in releases for sure.
Yeah, there's always a lot of focus of getting everything stood up and the brand new green deployments, but it's actually the BAU that's important, you know. Yeah. And you know, done right, this should be boring, right? It shouldn't be exciting. It should be very mundane and just happening, you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but it's been fantastic to hear the conversations and the efforts that are being made here, and it's very nice to have the opportunity to come and hear what's happening. So thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks so much for joining. Does anyone else have any final question last minute? No? Okay, in which case, well, thanks everyone for coming along. Thanks for listening to us. Thanks for all the sort of feedback and input. And yeah, we'll hopefully see you next month. Okay, bye.